For centuries, the indigenous people of North America have been passing down stories and legends of terrifying creatures that walk among us. And of all of the urban legends I have come across, the ones on this list might just be the wildest I've ever heard of. Welcome back, Most Amazing. I'm your host Kennedy, and today we're going to be counting down the top 10 scary indigenous urban legends you need to know. Let's not waste any more time. Starting us off at number 10 is the Wendigo. Arguably the most well-known of the indigenous legends is that of the flesh-eating Wendigo from the Algonquin tribes of North America. Now, with any legend, there's always a few variants, but the widely told story is that the Wendigo was once a lost hunter roaming the woods, who during the cold winter was running out of food to eat. Hungry, cold, and alone, the man turned to one of the greatest misdeeds one could. He began to eat the flesh of another human. Not long after, he turned into a giant beast, satiated for flesh, and continued to haunt the woods, looking for lone travelers to devour. It's said that anyone can turn into a Wendigo, as it is merely a human possessed by evil spirits due to a sinful choice, most commonly eating flesh, but some believe selfishness or gluttony can also bring the beast forward. Most terrifying of all is that many believe it may be more than just a story. Between the 1800s to 1920s, there were countless alleged sightings of the man-eating monster, and even as recently as 2019, a group of hikers swear they saw one roaming in the woods, but as with all urban legend, no one has been able to come forward with enough concrete proof to prove it once and for all. Let's just hope they saw something else in the woods, cause this is one monster I would not want to come face to face with. Next up at number 9 are owls. As told by the Yakima people, there were once 5 sisters living in a cave, but these sisters were no normal humans, of course. They were witches who feasted on vile things like frogs, lizards, snakes, mice, and most cruel of all, they would feast on the flesh of people. Eventually there was a large battle between the villagers, and these witches were killed off one by one. The local tribespeople were overjoyed to have their evil presence diminishing. That was until the final sister died and left a curse behind her. As legend has it, the last sister drowned, and from her eyeball, all the owls of the world were created, and their spirits lived on through the owls, always watching and haunting any that passed by. In other stories like that of the Choctaw mythology, the owl deity is known as the Aishikitini, or the horned owl, and is believed to hunt men at night, only ever warning its prey with a blood-curdling screech right before your sudden death. Either way, I'm not sure I will ever be able to look at an owl the same again. Coming in at number 8, the Chindi. According to Navajo legend, the Chindi is the bad energy left behind by those who passed away. It's believed to be kind of like a ghost that is released from the human body on their last breath, and then it's everything that was bad about the person, sort of like the residue of what they were not able to bring into harmony. But what's scariest about the Chindi is that it can haunt the living. In fact, many believe that contact with the Chindi can cause illness or even death. Because of this, traditional Navajo practice always aimed to have death occur outdoors, hoping that it would give more space for the Chindi to leave and less room for it to attach to the living. If death occurred inside a house, that house was pretty much doomed and was believed to be eternally haunted by the Chindi, so it was customary to destroy the deceased possessions to reduce the chance of the Chindi lingering around and latching onto the living. One step further, traditionally you shouldn't even dare utter the name of whoever died, so as not to tempt the Chindi to come near, for once it was close, you were likely the next one to go. Coming in at number 7 is the Adlet. Up in the icy Arctic lies a terrifying humanoid beast that's said to have the legs of a dog and the body of a person. The legend comes from the Inuit people and is said to be the product of a shocking union between a woman and a giant dog. As the story goes, there once was a woman who lived with her father and refused to marry any of the suitors he brought her way. Then after some time, she decided to marry a large dog with red and white spots. The woman was soon carrying the dog's offspring, and of their 10 kin, 5 were dogs and 5 were Adlet. Soon their young were hungry, but as their father did not hunt, it became the mother's father's job to provide for the household. He loaded up the family into a boat and carried them off to a small island, telling the dog to come and get meat daily. One day the wife hangs boots around her husband's neck to carry back the meat, but instead her father fills the boots with stones and the dog drowns. The mother is so angry that she orders her Adlet offspring to gnaw off her father's feet and hands, but in retaliation he cuts off one of her fingers. Afraid that he will kill her Adlets, she sends 5 of them across the ocean, but those that stayed behind with her turned into vicious, human-eating monsters who were constantly at war with the Inuit people. I mean, top to bottom, it's all pretty wild. Coming in at number 6 are stick people. In the traditions of the Salish communities, there is a legend of large, hairy spirits named stick people who are said to haunt the forest of Western Canada. These monsters are said to be incredibly dangerous and capable of paralyzing, hypnotizing, or even causing insanity in those who dare cross them. But that isn't even the worst of it. In some stories told, these ghoulish creatures will prey on lonely wanderers, sometimes making eerie sounds to trick them before kidnapping, eating, or even taking advantage of their victims. And if you try to defend yourself, you will only make matters worse. It's said stick people do not take kindly to any kind of disrespect, no matter how unintentional, and if they perceive that you are trying to hurt them, either physically or emotionally, they will attack you with even more gruesome force. In fact, the Salish people are so terrified of these monsters that the actual name for them is practically unheard of, as saying their real name in public is seen as an act of provoking the creature. Because of this, they are typically only ever referred to by their English name, so as not to upset the deadly creature and send it looking for you. Coming in at number 5, Skinwalkers. According to Navajo culture, the Skinwalker is a terrifying and evil witch with the ability to shapeshift into a terrifying humanoid beast. What's interesting about the legend of the Skinwalker is its connection to their views of magic itself. In Navajo culture, traditional healers were known as medicine men or women, and they learned both good and evil magic. At one time, all the witches were once medicine men or women who could not handle the responsibility, and so they began to use their magic for evil instead of good. It's said that once in their Skinwalker form, they are nearly indestructible and will wreak havoc on farmers' livestock or the people in the village that cross their path, and can only be killed by a bullet or by a knife dipped in white ash. Overall, the legend surrounding the Skinwalker is incredibly mysterious, and for good reason. The Navajo people are very reluctant to tell their story of the deadly creature to those outside their community. As you see, it's believed even mentioning a Skinwalker in passing will attract bad luck and make their appearances more likely, potentially even attracting one to come near you. So they avoid speaking on it at all costs. With that in mind, maybe we should move on to the next one. I'm not here to attract an evil witch my way after all. Next up at number 4, the Uktena. There are many different cultures worldwide who have a tale of a giant serpent or dragon, but one of the scariest might be that of the Uktena. According to Cherokee legend, origins of the creature began long ago when the sun sent a sickness down to earth to kill all of its people, and so a man changed into a horned snake to try and kill the sun, but he failed. Next, a rattlesnake took a shot and succeeded. The Uktena was apparently so jealous and angry over his failure that his people began to feel afraid of him, so they banished him to the woods to live out his life in isolation. But of course, he was not entirely left alone. You see, most commonly the Uktena is described as being a dragon-like, horned serpent creature with wings and a blazing diamond on its forehead. The blazing diamond, called Ulunsuti, and whoever can defeat the beast and win it may become the greatest warrior in the tribe. However, as legend has it, the diamond puts warriors into a trance, as it's so beautiful and so bright that warriors will run towards the monster instead of trying to escape. As the story goes, only one man has ever been able to fetch the diamond from the beast's forehead and live to tell the tale. Coming in at number 3, the Skadegamutc. Mentioned in the legends of the Wabanaki, the Skadegamutc is a terrifying ghost witch that will definitely give you nightmares. Said to be an evil sorcerer that refuses to stay among the dead, the evil Skadegamutc will emerge at night taking the shape of a ball of light, stalking the open woods looking for humans to devour, as it is the only way to fight off mortality. Also, I just have to mention, how many paranormal stories have you heard where some strange orb of light was seen? Could it be that it was an evil flesh-eating sorcerer stalking them this whole time? I mean, if so, that would be terrifying. Despite their undead nature, they still have full control over their powers and are able to cast a curse on their victims, but some are more susceptible than others. For example, they're said to stalk unsuspecting victims, often those in grief, so funerals are often associated with the ghouls. They also prey on lone travelers, especially those that have been separated from their group in the woods, as they are more vulnerable this way. Since they retain their powers, there are no weapons that can be used against them. The only way to kill one of these demonic vampire witches is the same way witches were killed for centuries, by burning them. But let's just hope that you can get to them before they get to you. Next up at number 2 is the Qalupalik. Deep under the icy waters of the freezing Arctic is another creature from Inuit folklore, the incredibly terrifying half-human sea monster known as the Qalupalik. Described as slimy green-skinned humanoid creatures with long fingers, the scariest thing about these creatures is not how they look, but what they do. As the legend goes, the Qalupalik hides under the ice waiting for vulnerable young ones to be playing near the edge. It will then tap its green fingers on the ice or softly hum to lure its victim in close. Once they can reach their prey, they will snatch up the little one, placing it in their amotik, a parka worn by Inuit women with a built-in carrying pouch, and bring them down into their underwater lair and keep them forever. It's said they prey on the young as this halts their aging. The older the victim grows, the younger she gets. The greener her skin stays and the more lush her hair. While no one can know for sure, it is believed this origin was mostly used as a cautionary tale to keep little ones away from the edge of the ice, but you never really know how much truth could be involved. And last up in our number 1 spot today is the flying head. Most popular among the Iroquois Confederacy, or Haudenosaunee in their language, is the legend of the flying head. According to the legend, the flying head was exactly as it sounded, a giant, floating, disembodied head with fiery eyes and tangled hair who floated through the air hunting for humans to devour. While the exact origins of the story are unknown, it's widely believed that the folklore derived from a betrayal of elders within an unknown tribe. As the story goes, there was a terrible famine, and the young people insisted that they should relocate to where there would be more. The elders, however, insisted they stay put, as the famine was actually a curse placed on them by their creator, and that it will follow them no matter where they are. Eventually, the disagreement got so out of hand that the young men killed the elders by decapitating them and throwing their heads into the nearby lake. But to their horror, the deceased came back to life, merging into one enormous head, seeking vengeance on the young men who killed them. In retaliation, the flying head took the lives of the entire tribe and feasted on their flesh. It's said that no man-made weapon can take the creatures down, and the only way to beat them is by tricking them into eating hot coals. I mean, if that's not terrifying, I don't know what is. Well, thank you so much for watching today's video, guys. I hope you liked it. If you did, make sure to hit that subscribe button, and I'll catch you next time.